What's up, YouTube? Today I wanted to talk about the falling prices of cryptocurrency and most likely the reasons behind it. Because what we're seeing is constant buy and sell or constant drop-offs each week, and a lot of us kind of wondering why. Well, I tend to think that it's our own fault or investors' fault. The reason I say that is because a lot of investors now are looking to get into ICOs to make a quick flip or to speculate and get in and get out as fast as possible. And in healthy markets, that's fine, but when the entire market is made up or a majority of market is made up of these kinds of investors, it kind of throws the system out of balance. And this leads to high cap ICOs, which also leads to lower overall prices for the cryptos that are involved in those ICOs. I've been a part of several startups, and typically the amount raised is for seed, it's upwards of 500,000 as a top. And if you're Series A, it goes up to maybe 12 to 15 million tops. And in order to get that, there's a high degree of due diligence that's done on the investor side. And the reason why they limit the funds to 12 to 15 million, which is still a lot by a lot of standards. Most startups in Series A will only get maybe 4 to 5 million to prove out the concept. After they've built the concept, then it's about trying to get traction. So now we're in a paradigm where the seed round or the initial fundraising round is upwards of $100+ million, which is ridiculous amounts of money. Especially when we consider that there's no product and the team is probably less than 50 to 100 people. For those that say it can't be done without this kind of money, I tend to look back at Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and Bill Gates and Paul Allen and even Linus Torvalds with Linux, right? It can be done and in bootstrapped. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit off topic, so I'll come back to it. So now, when a buyer or an investor is looking to participate in an ICO, they go to an exchange like Coinbase and exchange their fiat for BTC or ETC where they incur fees. Then they use that to fund the ICO or the company that's running the ICO, or initial coin offering. So in order to limit the risk, right off the bat, some of them are going to sell some of that cryptocurrency back to the exchange and straight back into fiat. So here's the thing. You as an investor paid $350 to invest into Ethereum to participate in this ICO. And we saw these run-ups right before these mega ICOs anyway. And some people invested like $2,800 per Bitcoin. So what ends up happening is when the ICO gets it, or the company that gets those funds, they start dumping it. And once they dump it immediately floods the supply with more Ethereum and Bitcoin, which lowers the price. So if you're holding on to Ethereum, then it's really bad for you. But if you've exchanged your Ethereum for tokens and are waiting for those tokens to flip back on the market for more Ethereum, by the time the ICO or the company has sold Ethereum, your price per Ethereum is now down. It also becomes worse when they're continually releasing coins at a very aggressive rate. And there's one ICO in particular, but there are a few others that have a ridiculous market cap as well, who will just continually dump Ether back on the market. And right now, I don't think there's enough buyers to sustain that, because we really have to see whether or not these ideas will pan out. The thing is, though, these ICOs that have 100 million plus can literally run for 10 to 20 years without any problems. And according to the terms that you agreed to as an investor, they don't even have to come out with a product. It's basically all just a concept. So let's take a look at EOS for an example. And I pointed this out because I've actually seen it. And one of the good things about blockchain is that you can see from the address that you send Ether to what they're doing with the Ether. And apparently, out of 309,000 Ethereum that was raised during the ICO, 100,000 of it made it to Bitfinex exchange, where it's then subsequently liquidated. All right, the whole point of an ICO is to raise funds to fund the business, which makes sense. And this is exactly what they're doing. But the way they're doing it is hurting the overall market because they're so aggressive with their coin sales and their fundraising. What would happen, what would be nice to happen, is if they could limit their actual cash to actually what they need. because this puts investors at more risk than they need to be. And investors themselves, once they're flooded with recycled Ethereum, the very Ethereum that they put in the ICO is sold back to them at a cheaper price, but they still have to pay the fees to convert their fiat and go through the exchange and pick up the Ether again. So the run-up is actually captured by the company itself and not the investor. And if these companies don't actually come out with a product, then everyone is kind of screwed and it hurts the market all together. So what happens with the tokens? Well, I'll make money on the token side. All right, well, if you make money on the token side and people are just kind of putting more and more money in it when there's still no product, what are you actually buying or investing in? In my opinion, I think that some of these companies that are going 100 plus are taking advantage of inexperienced investors who think they can get rich quick. And in a way, it needs to happen so that people can learn that there are people that are trying to take advantage of them. But what I would hope is that your average investor or your normal investor can try to see that they really shouldn't be investing all this money in very high capped ICOs that are just ideas only. It would also help if these ICOs had moderate caps that were just really based on what they needed to do and a little bit of runway just to prove the concept. That way, the balance of Ether and BTC could stay with the investor and invest in other companies. I guess for me, I'm not a big fan of joining these really large diluted ICOs because there's not a lot of value. It's already taken out and it's going to be hard to extract because it's priced to perfection, as what they say. What would be nice is if they could have targets and they hit goals and then raise another round if they actually need it when they hit certain milestones. Like when they come out with a proof of concept and they actually start gaining some traction and they need some extra funds to really accelerate the traction. This helps everyone overall and will keep and maintain balance in at least the stability of the price of the coin and market demand. There's lots of ICOs that are like this that have sold out in 5 to 7 minutes, but that makes the price go up. What happens when you have these mega caps? That makes the price go down. So it's actually better if you aren't able to get it and there's some sense of scarcity to these coins. So it's not necessarily bad that not everyone can buy into an ICO. I mean, there is some gaming of the system which needs to be addressed, but overall that scarcity creates demand and creates fuel and acceleration. When everybody can get everything, it just kind of implodes on itself, especially when these companies start selling it right back to you. So the value actually ends up going down. But we'll see in the long run how it ends up. This is just my thought. As we see these mega caps liquidate, the price will drop. Once these first round of ICOs don't make any money and they liquidate all their Ethereum, the price will drop again, or they'll save it and then just become rich because they've taken advantage of everybody. So hold your money, study these companies. There are some gems in there. Just do your due diligence. Hope you like this video. Let me know your thoughts. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And thanks for watching. See you on the next one.